what's the greatest benefit that you've experienced in your life now that you have the skills to actually feel the hard emotions?
It enables me to show up for myself, which then allows me to show up for other people.
My emotions will tell me who I am. Then I don't have to really worry about what you think of me because I know who I am. I can show up for myself. I can show up for other people.
Emotions are the color of life.
Mm-hmm.
You live so much more fully when you're capable of feeling the good and the bad. You've got to be able to feel the bad if you're going to feel the good as completely as you can. But that's what makes life feel full and real.
I went on and on about like how I finally get to experience what life can give me in a way that I really never gave enough gratitude to begin with. Welcome to No Alcohol Needed, the podcast. You're hanging out at the intersection of emotional wellness, personal growth, and living an alcohol-free life. Here we share everything we've learned and continue to learn about how to be happy, no alcohol needed.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the No Alcohol Needed podcast. We are so happy to have you here with us. Thanks to our listeners and our viewers for chilling with us. And of course, thanks to Sean and Matt for being with us today too. We're going to dig into talking about emotions, dealing with emotions, processing them, not letting them hijack you, all of the important things. So we will dig into that in just a minute. Before we do that, I want to remind all of you, our wonderful listeners / viewers, to go to the website, noalcoholneeded.net. And if you click on Meet the Voices of No Alcohol Needed, you can get to know Sean and Matt and all of the other awesome guests that we have joining us this season. So make sure you check that out. Again, noalcoholneeded.net. You can also learn about the podcast and some of the other stuff that we do. And of course, there's 175-ish episodes all about all of the emotional sobriety stuff you might be dealing with. So anyway, with that said, Matt, Sean, good to see you guys. Thanks
Good
for
to have
being
you
here.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And so Steve and I spent all of January hanging out in dry January groups on Facebook, offering support, hearing what was going on, just sharing what wisdom we could. And what we would find really interesting is that people would talk about how hard it was to handle their emotions. That was always one of the number one struggles. But then the question that they would ask the group is, so what do you do to stop feeling things if you aren't drinking? So basically they're asking like, okay, I can't avoid feelings the way I always avoid feelings. So how do I avoid the feelings now? Which I think like we can all relate to, right? It's totally familiar. Inevitably, we would respond like, you're not supposed to find a new way to escape from your feelings. You are supposed to actually feel them. And nobody really likes that response. I think mostly because nobody knows what that means. So in today's episode, we are going to talk about exactly that. We're going to talk about how to feel your feelings, how to not let them take you hostage, and how to get to the other side of what feels like it might be impossible, and maybe even learning and growing a little bit in the process. So, yeah, Matt's been on here, I don't know how many times, talking about the real stuff and sharing the emotion since like almost the beginning of his recovery journey. And Sean coaches men in developing emotional intelligence. So this should be a phenomenal episode. I'm really looking forward to the conversation. We're going to start by digging into, what do you think most of us misunderstood about emotions? Or what do you think that our listeners and viewers still misunderstand about emotions? Somebody dive in.
Go ahead, go for it, Matt.
So, I mean, we've talked about this recently quite a bit, I think, but I think labeling emotions correctly. I feel like when I was drinking, it was like the three main emotions: happy, mad, sad, right? And everything fell in one of those categories. Some things fell in multiple categories, but those were like the only ways I knew to react to my emotions, based off what the situation was. Even now, almost 3 years sober, still I don't label or identify my emotions correctly, or can't express them correctly. verbalize them correctly to people. And I think that at least for me, that's like the most difficult thing that I have with navigating I would say high emotional situations mostly.
So like actually figuring out what emotion it is that you're feeling is like the most difficult part for you still.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that
And
makes
Matt
total
also just
sense.
finished reading reading Atlas of the Heart. So
Mm.
Matt just realized that there's
Hey.
87 different emotions that a
I have
human
it
can
here if I
feel.
need it quick. I do. Yes.
Literally my favorite book.
It's
It's
so
my
eye-opening.
favorite one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By far, just I'm going to go on a little tangent. My most favorite book for giving me the language to express myself. Plain and simple, it was so easy to digest and then put personal experience to the emotions so I can kind of access that again, because I can put a place in my life, an event in my life that happened, and say, I felt this here in this situation. And then it gave me a situation, a thing that I can relate to today, or another situation or another event where I could pull that up or live it right now and then go, that was kind of like that feeling that I pulled up when I originally did this. I wonder if that's what it is. Like it takes a lot of practice, and I opened that book more times than I can count. But rant over, little tidbit of personal life over, it has given me, I think, way more than I even really know how much value it's just that
Yeah.
alone has given me.
Right.
Very cool. You know, when I was very similar to Matt when I first got sober a long time ago, and then I just didn't really I didn't know what I was feeling. I didn't know that I was supposed to feel. I honestly thought that feelings were a nuisance. And like, if I'm not going to drink, if I'm not going to do other things to avoid them, then I need to find other ways to avoid them, because that's the whole point, right? Growing up, I was allowed to feel happy, but anything other than that was just like, don't feel that, or you don't feel that, or you shouldn't feel that. That was just ingrained the first 18 years of my life, was just don't feel other than happy. And our society is geared towards that also, seek pleasure, run away from pain. It's how humans are geared. And when I found out that I had no emotional intelligence, I started working with a woman by the name of Pia Melody. And you can look up Pia Melody. She's passed, but she does a lot of work in codependency. And she says, yes, there's all these different emotions out there. For us new in recovery, man, we can only handle a couple, like to label a couple. And so she broke it down into 8 basic emotions. So there's anger, and fear, and pain, shame, guilt, passion, love, and joy. And that was easier for me to understand, because I don't know if I'm pissed off or if I'm frustrated. Right. I don't know if I can handle that nuance, especially in early recovery. So I was able to just label it as anger. I'm angry. And some people are like, oh my God, you're angry. Stay away from that. That's too hard of an emotion. No, it's the basis of the emotion. It's the least common denominator of that emotion of anger. It can be frustration, irritation, peeved, whatever it might be. But when I could acknowledge I felt anger, then that was a movement. If I couldn't tell I was feeling anger, well, one other thing I didn't realize is that emotions are simply energy in the body. That's all an emotion is. Humans call it an emotion, but it's energy in the body, created by thought or created by behavior. So if I can't tell what I'm feeling, I can always check in with my body, and my body will never lie to me. And so if you look up Pia Melody, she'll tell you how to analyze what your body feels like and what emotion that might be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that feeling emotions thing is so hard to do at first. and takes a lot of practice, but it's also like and it, when I was going to couples therapy, I remember the therapist, he was so good. He's like, okay, like the first thing you need to do is learn how to feel this emotion in your body. And he's like, everybody gets pissed off at me when I say that because it sounds stupid and nobody knows how to do it anyway. And what's even the point? But once you understand that, so much changes about the way you experience and understand emotions. When we talk about what was misunderstood, I was really similar to Sean in that I thought that we weren't supposed to feel anything other than happy. And I was raised in a really spiritual environment. So anger is sinful, right? It's not just that anger is scary or that you shouldn't feel anger, but anger was actually sinful. So you're like morally bad if you're experiencing anger. Or if grief lasts too long, then you're weak. And, it's a lack of ability to process the emotion, push it off, move
Oh.
on with your life. And that was expected of us. Like grief is okay, but only for 10 days. And then you better move on and you better start acting happy again. And then I surrounded myself with like people who were really good at shoving their emotions down. And I took that to mean other people don't feel things the way that I feel things because I can't shove them down. I don't have that. Um, and so I thought there was something wrong with me. Like I didn't figure out how to process emotions. Obviously, everybody else knows what they're doing. So there's just something wrong with me. And it left me just feeling like inferior and morally incapable and all of these things, which I think is really common. In some way or another, most of us believed that we weren't supposed to feel certain things. And that's kind of the big misunderstanding amongst all of the other, the nuance. So if we talk about so many people suppress emotions, either successfully or unsuccessfully, in my case, what actually happens when you suppress your emotions or you avoid feeling your emotions? What impact has that had on you, or what are you aware of that people can be, looking out for?
I'm going to backtrack just a wee bit
Yeah.
to the first question.
Okay.
What was misunderstood? Two things, other than the similarity of what the hell is this that I'm feeling because I avoided it so much, was I think a giant misconception is that I'm responsible for the way I feel. Like my feelings are my feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Something else can happen to me outside of me, but if I am blaming my feeling on someone else, then I make it their responsibility to fix the way I feel. And that's not the way that works. It is my responsibility to soothe the way I feel, and it is also my responsibility to figure out what that reaction is. Except
Mhm.
for I just never gave response enough time for response to reaction because everything was so raw. My hand was on the damn hot plate all the time. Ouch, this one hurt. I didn't know what to do with it. Ouch, this one hurt. I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't have the resilience. So it was either reaction, it was your fault because I didn't have the time, and it was easier to give it away than take responsibility for it. Or it was put my hand on the hot plate and then hang on for a little bit and realize that it wasn't as hot as what I thought it was if I sat in it long enough.
Mhm.
It didn't burn. I just got time to figure out what was mine. And that was mine. It was my emotion. I think a major misconception is you made me feel that way. And I've done this so many times. It's
So
ridiculous, but you made me feel that way. And this is why I feel that way. And we render ourselves absolutely powerless in that emotion. When I say, Julie, you made me feel this way.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then I just give the responsibility away. And I think that's a major misconception. We give away our responsibility of how we feel.
Mhm. And for the listeners that are interested, it's such an important concept to take responsibility for your emotions. And in episode 176, not too long ago, we actually dug into what that looks like. Sean was on that episode with us also,
yeah,
and taking
my favorite
responsibility.
topic. Yeah.
So anyway, so
Anyways.
with that said, it's a really important point and something that was worth enough discussion that we did a whole episode about it not too long ago.
Yeah.
So make sure you check that out. But on that note, what if people are, or when you did, because I think we're all guilty of either suppressing or avoiding our emotions, what impact does that have over time?
Go ahead, Matt.
So I guess my thoughts on this is if I did not deny myself the opportunity to feel the emotion, it kind of goes back to what I said before. It puts me in the hole longer in life of trying to be able to identify them correctly. And when I was thinking about this earlier, what that got me to is right, like it's gonna stop me from being able to, I guess, evolve, grow as a person. And then the last thing I wrote to this thought was human connection, and then I wrote how and a question mark. And I think for me, I struggle to relate to people with their experiences if I haven't experienced it. But if I have experienced it and I can identify with what they're going through, I'm right there with them. And it's the same thing with emotions for me, right? So that's where kind of going back to what you guys are saying, as being younger or even as a uh, young male, maybe not necessarily a kid, but that idea of like, oh, I can, control my emotions. Like I don't cry. I'm a man. Like that mantra was such not such a negative, but was a negative in actually like growing up and developing as a person, right? At least for me, that was the case. And it's taken me, now my late 30s, down 40 to understand the strength that actually is, to be able to feel these things and what it enables me to do in providing a space for other people.
Mm.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Very cool. If, in my opinion, if you suppress the emotion, you miss the message.
Yes.
You miss the lesson. You miss the whole point of the emotion. The emotion is a guidepost. It is how your environment is speaking directly to you. And it is telling you to do a few things, depending on what the emotion is. If you're feeling anger, it's probably telling you to set a boundary somewhere. If I ignore that I'm pissed at Julie all the time, then I don't hear the message of maybe you should set a boundary with Julie.
Why do I
Meaning
keep
I'm
getting
not,
blamed for everything?
because you're the host. We got to pick on you. But what I'm saying is that that emotion is trying to get me to actually create a behavior. So not listening to my anger is synonymous with not protecting myself, right? Or if you feel shame, well, that feeling of shame is actually communicating something to you. When I feel like I'm not good enough and I tell myself, oh, what a piece of junk I am, what a piece of dirt I am, that awful cloak of shame is telling me that thought is out of alignment with who I truly am, my true nature. And I need to switch the way in which I think about myself. Or guilt. Guilt says, man, I stepped on Matt's foot. And I shouldn't have done that because that's not the type of person I am that I want to be. So I need to go back and say, hey, Matt, I'm sorry for stepping on your foot. There's always a message with the emotion. But if you ignore it and suppress it, you are screwed, blued, and tattooed, as my father used to say, coming from a guy that's totally tattooed. Yeah.
That was, so what you're talking about right there is exactly what I did in early sobriety, because I was one of those people that's like, oh my gosh, I can't stand feeling these emotions. What do I do with them? And so I would journal like a crazy person. And I know we've talked about that. Some people journal, some people don't. But for me, I would try to put all of the words to it. And I would try to figure out what I needed to, what I was doing was looking for an action. What do I need to do now? Now that I know what this is, now that I know why I'm feeling it, now that I understand what the message is, what do I need to do with it? And that's when I felt like I got a little bit of a sense of empowerment back,
Yes.
is when I could figure out what to do. So if that meant I felt guilty, then I needed to apologize. If I was angry, I needed to set a boundary. And that was really empowering. And I didn't feel like I was being like tossed around so much by those emotions. And I think sometimes there's not anything you can do, but often I was able to find an action. And that's kind of where my journal always would take me.
So cool.
Suppression meant to me that nothing ever got resolved. So I never dealt with the things that I needed to deal with. So by suppressing and not saying anything or not feeling it or avoiding the feeling, I never gave myself a chance to recognize or realize what it is that I needed to change. Like you were talking about, Sean, like it's the response to the world. It's the response to whatever it is that I'm experiencing. And if I don't give it a home and I throw it in my backpack, I now get to carry that energy. It's unprocessed. It doesn't go anywhere. It stays there. Yeah, I might not feel it anymore now in the moment, but I'm carrying that stuff. I remember very vividly how heavy the backpack was because I never talked about it and I never gave it space. I never gave myself a time to feel it, deal with it, and do something with it. I never gave it anything. I was too afraid. I was too afraid of the change that was gonna happen because of it. I was too afraid of maybe I was gonna say something stupid. I was too afraid of losing the relationships. So it was easier to stuff it down than it was to potentially just face the reality of this is the way things are, which is probably the nastiest one of all. And that's why I avoided all of these things, all of the way I felt. So big emotions, especially for me, were definitely the big ones were definitely dealt with. I need a drink. That was the easiest way to suppress it, easiest way to dumb it down. Also, later on, a lot of the times when I was tired of, my body was tired of carrying things, I always had a giant release. It was generally either deep sadness or really pissed off. It was like one or the other. I would cry big time and just let that somatic response. It would that's where the energy came out. It came out in either anger or tears. There was no in between.
Yeah.
What about this idea, though, that when you're feeling really good, you want to feel better? Do you remember those days?
Yeah.
I'm feeling good. Let's just get a little bit better.
Oh,
A
man.
little bit better.
That was a hard one
Yeah.
for me to experience, was just joy without
Right?
needing to make it feel better.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
So true.
That's one that for me, joy was like the more I practiced just feeling joy, the better the joy got. And that's something that
Yeah.
you can tell people 1,000 times that they will not believe until they experience it, for sure.
Well, that's just like feeling the emotion in your body, like checking in with your body and finding out where it is. I would tell you, if you said that to me 4 years ago, I would be laughing at you internally. I'd be like, what the fuck does that guy know? He doesn't know
Yeah.
anything. You can't feel that shit. Like, no way. Like, how do you just check in with your body and find out where that comes from? Like, I didn't have the space or capacity at that point in time to like slow down enough, nor did I even ask the question, how in the hell do I do this? Because I just thought it was like above me or too woo-woo hocus pocus sort of thing. I see it now. I feel it now. I know exactly what you're saying. I do those things now. But like, talk about that's a tough one, but it's absolute fact.
Mhm. Definitely. To the topic of avoidance and like trying not to feel things. So I remember when somebody told us, actually, I think on the podcast, it was like episode 4 or 5, she said the opposite of depression is expression. And
Like
the
that.
point of that being, if you learn to express your emotions, you're going to experience less depression, because the depression, a big part of that is just the keeping all of those emotions inside for so long. And that hit me so hard, because for me, my avoidance and the suppressing the emotions led to a very deep depression. I spent the better part of 10 years experiencing regular suicidal ideation, really just not wanting to exist in my life anymore. And I just thought that that was, a part of this whole broken thing where I couldn't deal with my emotions. And then I was always depressed all the time. And it turns out learning how to do all of that is what got me to the point of not being depressed anymore. And I mean, I was diagnosed with depression at 17 years old, and it was heavy and dark until I was 39. Like, I thought there was no hope, and that was just going to be a part of who I was. And so, for those people out there that I know are listening that are dealing with depression, there is hope, and it does get better. And there are skills that you can learn to actually make yourself feel better. And I think that was the biggest thing with the avoidance, was just the darkest depression that, if you've never experienced it, is hard to describe. Um,
It's
and then the
miserable.
other thing, and I think this is to the point that Matt made, if we're not expressing our emotions, if we're not actually outwardly feeling and sharing those with another human, we are robbing ourselves of connection on every level. If we are in a relationship or a friendship with someone and we are keeping all of our feelings inside and not sharing with them, if we're resentful or if we're hurt, we are robbing ourselves of the reconnection that can happen there, where the relationship gets better. So on so many levels, we are robbing ourselves of so much when we don't let ourselves feel things and when we try to keep it all inside. And so we've talked about this a little bit. I'm going to kind of run off script here a little because I think it needs to be discussed. But we talk all the time about learning how to sit with your emotions. That's, I think, what we would say to people in the Dry January group when they're like, "I don't know how to feel this," and we're like, you just need to sit with it." And that's not something you can type out in a Facebook comment. But what does it mean to learn how to sit with your emotion instead of run from it? What's that experience been like for you, or somebody you've talked to?
Julie, can I explain one way to do that?
Yes, please
Okay.
do. That'd be
And
great.
I work a lot with, in my counseling practice, I work a lot with individuals that have depression or anxiety. And one thing you can do is just sit down, find a quiet place, close your eyes. And I think I've said this before, rock your hands back and forth like this. That will ground you emotionally. It's called bilateral stimulation. They use it in EMDR. So just do that, or tap your feet back and forth. And then just say, "I'm feeling this, whatever the emotion is. I'm feeling this anger, and this is hard." Breathe in and exhale and say, "And I'm going to be okay."
Mhm,
Breathe in. "This is hard." Exhale. "I'm going to be okay." That's how you sit with your emotions. That
mhm.
it's not, if it's fucking rocket science, I wouldn't be teaching it.
Right? I'm gonna
It's
add to
not
that
rocket
one
science.
thing. I do the same. I do exactly that. And one thing that I'm gonna add to it is I always remind myself that it makes sense why I feel this way.
Yes.
Because I always thought that every emotion that I had was somehow wrong and didn't make any sense, and it made me crazy. And so for me, it helps to say it makes sense why I feel this way. And it is hard, and I'm okay.
Yes. So true. So true.
What about you, Matt? Do you ever sit with your emotions? Matt's like, shit.
So no, so this is where where my day today lines up perfect with this. As one of the cats comes up here. So today I had to put down one of my parents' cats.
Mm.
And so my parents left earlier this week for Florida, and well, even I think my mom thought the cat obviously was doing better than it was. Then I like once I saw the cat and a couple things happened, knew it was time. So that was it. Like I called her today and I was like, we're at the point, we're at the point where it's not fair to him anymore. What with all of this. And I like I said, I went through the gambit of emotions, and um not so much anger. I had anger the other day, about the situation more than not just the situation of death, right? Like that, what needs to be done versus there was no anger towards anyone or anything like that. The cat, my parents, nothing. It was just that like, this sucks because this is something you got to do. Right. Um, but today it was, sadness. There was joy. Like I still remember the day we got him. When I'm driving to the vet today, I was thinking about that. I was like, when I got this cat, it was the first one after I put my like first cat like down. And it was like, you filled this space that I needed at that time, right? Like as a younger kid, it was just all these things. And a couple of years ago, I put one of my cats down, and it allowed me to kind of re-grieve him and go through those things
Mhm.
that I didn't at the time, right? Like it was such a relief back then of just finally doing it and making that decision. Where I had the opportunity to do that. And it was just like, it was like, I just sat alone and it was just sitting there and just giving it space. And in this circumstance, it was really giving Bandit, the cat, like, that time, like, right. Cause he's been a part of my life and our family's life for 15 years. Right. And it just gives you just such a great appreciation for everything. Like just the whole cycle of life. Right. I was able to kind of like go through. And as I'm speaking, I forget even feeling the emotions of things, right? Like, I don't know, it was just such a beautiful thing that I any other time in my life, well, not any time, 3-4 years ago would have been drinking, or I would have, as I famously have said here today, put it in a box and put it on a shelf and dealt with it later. Probably never dealt with it though, really. Right.
Mhm.
And even a great example of that is like I'd already said, like with my other cat, like I was able to take that box down today, open that box up, and give my cat then what he deserved as far as grieving his death as well. So
Mhm. I like what you said. You gave it space.
Mhm.
That's all you can do, right? Is just actually open up space to let the emotion exist. And we're so afraid of feeling them because that's painful. Like I was there, I guess actually, gosh, almost a year ago now. But like one of the most painful things I've been through was losing an animal. And just to open it up and be like, yes, this is so hard. This hurts is the most powerful thing we can do, and it goes against everything most of us have ever done when it comes to feeling things.
Uh, One of the other things that has helped me along the way is I've been very, very fortunate that have I have people and I had people that I could trust. So not only did I have to just sit with them or figure out how to allow the emotion to exist, I had people I could trust I could share it with. So I didn't have to sit with it alone. I could try and name it through talking and through conversation, and those people would listen and allow it to be messy. And when it was allowed to be messy, I got to practice trying to communicate what the hell it is I was feeling. And so sitting with them, not just by myself, but sometimes sharing it with someone, of course, someone that you trust, was so super helpful for me.
Mhm,
Like, I think one part that we forget is like we sit with the emotion. It is what it is. If we can't figure it out, it's easier to put it on the shelf. Sometimes it's easier to put it on the shelf because it's just too hard to share. It's way easier doing almost any of this when you aren't alone.
Mhm.
mhm.
Almost like bar none. In my experience, that's fact. Sitting alone with some things, I've certainly needed it. It has needed to happen so I could see the things that I needed to see. But 9 times out of 10, it has been extremely helpful.
I think this
Mhm.
is a really good demonstration of how everybody needs to figure out what does work for them and what
Mhm,
doesn't. Because
mhm,
I'm listening to you talk, and I had a moment the other night. And so when I am like experiencing a big emotion, I need to sit with it by myself first for a while. And I need to just feel the damn thing, however it needs to come out, like whatever that looks like. I don't want to talk to anybody for a while. First, I just want to let myself feel it. And let it like completely engulf me and all of the, the stuff Sean's talking about. You can feel it in your whole body. You can feel your stomach twist in knots and your heart starts racing. And for me, like my face gets hot and I get almost tunnel vision and like all of this stuff. Like I need to let all of that happen. And then I'm good and I'll be ready to talk about but when I want to talk about it, that's when I want to process it now. Like the feeling has kind of released. And then I'm ready to like sort out what happened and understand it better. And that's where we listen to the message that the emotion is giving us, like what Sean says. But we're all different and we all handle these in different ways. And so when you're just learning how to feel and like experience it and learn from it, it's all just trial and error and then practice. It's not like any of us are so great at this that it just doesn't phase us anymore. Like I still sit on the bathroom floor and just fucking cry. Like it's not pretty and it's not graceful and whatever it is. So I don't want people to think that, oh, like we have it all figured out. Like you don't get it all figured out. You just learn how to let it come out however it needs to.
It's no different than learning to go to the gym and you can't lift any weights at first and you suck and you're the weakest guy in the room and then you just keep going and you keep going.
Mm-hmm.
I find that walking, if I'm having a hard time feeling it, just going for a walk really helps.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'll share on that. I feel like I'm talking a lot, but I'll share this really quick. So I went for a 200-mile hike about 6 weeks after I hit my rock bottom, wrecked my car, pretty much
Wow.
destroyed my life. And I had already had this hike planned and I wasn't going to go. And I ended up deciding to go. And I was supposed to go with a friend and she bailed on day one. So I ended up hiking 200 miles alone with a whole lot of really hard thoughts and emotions and feelings and everything. And I like most people know when I say like the thought spiral, it just doesn't stop. Right. And when all you can do is walk, all you can do is walk. And you can't turn the thoughts off because there's nothing, you're not carrying alcohol in your backpack. Like you are just on your own in the woods. And I think that's where, the walking helps because it feels like you're moving forward. And that's where I learned that if you just let the feeling go and you just let it do what it's going to do and you let the thoughts go where they're going to go and you don't try to stop them, they will stop. And that was like the most powerful lesson I learned that probably made sobriety possible for me because I didn't have a choice. I was walking 15 miles a day and I didn't have anybody to talk to. And there was no way to turn off all of the regret and the shame and the sadness and the fear and none of those emotions were easy. And I didn't have any choice but to learn how to do that. So to Sean's point, like the walking is huge because it gives you like this forward momentum that I think your thoughts even catch on to. And also, at some point, they do run out of steam. They just do. Every time.
it's like a wave,
Mm-hmm.
just a wave that passes through you. And when you
Yep,
allow it,
exactly.
it just passes through you.
It
Mhm.
does, doesn't it? Like they're not permanent. They've never you never feel it forever. Eventually it washes over you. Eventually you get busy doing something else. Eventually, whatever it may be. I mean, we can be stuck in that thought spiral for a good long time and it can really chuck some hard shit at us. I've been slapped around by my own imagination because that's what it is, really. It's my own imagination of whatever somebody else is doing, whatever the future is going to happen, whatever I think someone else is going to say or how this situation is going to go. Like I ruminate like a champ, but and all that does is create a whole bunch of Matt's laughing. Are you good at that too? Anyways, I'm my own worst enemy when it comes to it for the most part. Like I'm definitely the creator of it. When I create those stories, when my imagination runs just freaking wild. It's nice now that I can call myself out and going, this isn't even happening. Why am I pissed off? You know, right?
Right.
Like I can have a whole argument with Sean in my head and he's not even in the room. Like entirely possible. And like for what? For what?
That's just where the thoughts go.
I think it's important. I'm going to stop here 1 second. I think it's important because we're like, we focus and talk about emotion a fair amount. And there's a reason for it, because if we don't know how to deal with, feel with, do something with our emotions, in the end, I think if I stop learning how to do any of this stuff, I'm going to go back to either feeling really shitty about myself. I'm going to lose self-confidence. I'm going to lose a lot of the self-agency that I've acquired over time. I'm going to lose a lot of things because I'm not dealing with these emotions anymore. And like, it's the basis, it's the root for, like you said, Sean, the responses. I need to put a boundary up here. I need to examine this here. And figuring out how to have a healthy emotional response to whatever the heck the world throws at me has given me the distance between me and having another drink. And it's put me so far away that it's not something I desire anymore. It's not a thought that crosses my mind when hard shit happens that I want to go away with it. I just look at the thing now and go, oh, fuck. Like that sucks. This hurts. This, whatever it is. But I don't desire my quick resolution from it anymore. I desire to find like a healthier path to it. And I mean, it's taken a really long time to do that, but it started out with talking about this, the conversation that we're having now.
Right.
Nice.
Sean, I'm going to ask you really quick, in like a sentence or two, how do you define emotional intelligence?
It's not my definition. It's a gentleman by the name of Daniel Goleman's definition.
Okay.
I've kind of expounded on it in my counseling and coaching practice. He says there's 4 pillars of emotional intelligence: becoming aware of what you feel, learn how to regulate it on your own and take responsibility for it, learn how to communicate it to others effectively without attacking, and then allowing yourself to show grace to others and grace to yourself. Awareness is the key, and awareness is kind of what Matt was talking about. What am I feeling? Why am I feeling it? Where do I feel it in my body? And when have I felt it before? Because when we start seeing patterns, let's put it this way. If I have resentment come up over and over and over and over and over again, I haven't learned the lesson. That's why I keep feeling it.
Right.
Once I learn the lesson, the fucking thing goes away. I don't have to feel it
Magical,
anymore.
isn't it?
It's sitting there going, listen to me, motherfucker. Learn the lesson and I'll go away. I'll leave you alone. I'll give you peace.
Right.
But until you do, you're going to continue to feel it until you learn the lesson. But the awareness, like Matt was talking about, is the key. What am I feeling? Where am I feeling in my body? That wasn't 2 sentences, by the way. Why do I feel it? And when have I felt it before?
Yeah. No, that's great. I think that, we've mentioned emotional intelligence a few times here, so it's good to probably just define it and make it clear what we're talking about. So if someone is in the middle of some emotional discomfort, aside from obviously the just sit with it, and I think that when we talk about the sit with it, I say just, we're not just sitting with it. But anyway, I think when we talk about sitting with it, that's that the first huge big wave that comes over us, but then there's still stuff that keeps us uncomfortable even as it kind of dissipates. What works? What's helpful for you to actually support yourself as you move through the discomfort that people can actually grab onto and maybe start applying when they're going through something?
I've been
Matt,
talking
do
a
you
lot.
have
Somebody
anything?
else talk.
I'm not really sure.
Hmm.
I'm really sure on this one.
Is there anything that
that's-
you do or that you've tried that when you're like when everything's kind of yuck that at least helps you feel a little bit supported? That doesn't mean make it go away, but supported.
I think the biggest thing I can do is identify what it's not, right? Usually
Mhm.
that's the case with a lot of things. And to be honest, I feel like in general, I'm much better at identifying what things aren't versus what they necessarily are.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't, yeah, I don't really, it's really all I can think of right now.
Well, that's fair. That's like when you're taking a multiple choice test and you at least cross off the ones you know are definitely not the right one, right?
There you go.
I'm gonna piggyback off what Matt said there a little bit, because where my head went was, when I identify what it is I'm feeling, and even if it feels close to it, I get comfort in knowing that this is what I'm feeling. It's like
True.
then whether I know how to deal with it or not is beside the point. I could be like, I'm actually feeling grief right now, and this hurts. I'm in pain. I'm in this and I'm in that, but it's just grief. Okay. And I think that gives me a sense of control, because if I can identify it, then I know I'm closer to a solution. I think that's where I go. If I don't know, because I remember, if I didn't know what it was that I was feeling, I would pretty much either fight against it because I couldn't name it. And when I fought against it, I felt it harder and stronger and longer.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could at least name it or get close to it, then it gave me a chance to release it sooner. So that for me is where I began to find way more comfort, is just in trying to name it, even if it was wrong, in trying to name it something that was close.
Yeah. I think you
Walk.
said something important there that's worth recognizing. The easiest way to make an emotion feel even bigger and even more impossible is to fight it. Like, as
Mhm.
soon as you just give in and accept that this is what you're feeling, it loses some of its power. But if you're like, no, I can't stand to feel this way. I shouldn't feel this way. I can't feel this way. For me, it was I shouldn't, but I think we all have a different version of that. If you're fighting it, it's going to, like Sean said, it's going to stand up in front of you and freaking demand that you notice it and feel it. And if you keep avoiding it, it's going to get louder and it's going to get meaner until you're just like, okay, fine. I see you.
I'm going to have to speak from my own experience. How often have I regretted swallowing the tears and feeling that giant lump in my throat, because that would have lasted longer than the tears? And when I've walked away, I've gone, man, I just should have fucking cried, because I carried the discomfort of having swallowed it way longer than I would have had I had just cried for a minute or two.
Yeah.
Every freaking time.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best physical description I can give that, because we've all swallowed the tears. We've all swallowed that in the moment. And especially if it's, you're at a funeral. I can't tell you how many times I've swallowed tears at a funeral just so somebody didn't see me cry.
Yep.
And like carrying around that discomfort when I could have just cried for a couple of minutes, it would have saved me a lot of discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you
Definitely.
accept the way you're feeling and you don't say, I shouldn't be feeling like this, because when you start saying that, now you're putting judgment on top of the emotion. You're basically doubling up on the emotion. You're exponentially compounding the emotion, because now there's not only anger, but now there's shame. You're already in pain. Don't add
Mhm.
to it with creating your own suffering. So just
Mhm.
walk. I've been doing this for 25 years. I walk every time I'm feeling an overwhelming emotion. When I come back, my wife's like, "Ah, there he is. He's back. He's not an asshole the way he used to be. Just walk. That's all you got to do.
Mhm.
It's not complicated."
Yeah.
How long? How long do you walk? Like, how long of a walk works?
No less than 20 minutes, which is about a mile. Now, I get it. I live in Arizona. I can walk any time of the year. So there's a lot of you got a lot of snow, so I'm being a little bit snooty here. But at least a mile, which is 20 minutes,
Mhm.
preferably 2, which is 40 minutes. But it depends on
And if you can do 200 miles, which takes roughly
Dude,
2
that's
weeks, even
nuts.
better.
Got a whole nother podcast on walking addiction.
I'm telling you, it's one hell of an experience to spend a
crazy.
day hiking up the side of a mountain or hiking 70 miles, because I did 70 miles over the summer. I had 2 days where I was in just pure misery. Like, I was miserable. My body was not feeling it. I was like, there was things happening that were just uncomfortable, and in many ways physically. And then I tapped into how I was feeling mentally too. Like, I wanted to tap out. I am way too fucking far away from anything to tap out immediately. My head goes, because we always look for the quickest escape. My head went to, like, we get up to the top of that freaking thing, I know I'm going to have cell phone signal. I can get a helicopter to chopper me out of this fucking place. You know what I mean?
Can
Like,
we
that's it.
acknowledge, though, with the lesson, and I could do a whole podcast on lessons I've learned while hiking that relate to sobriety, but
Right.
it passes because
Oh, yeah.
after those 2 days were like 5 great days. So,
Oh yeah, no, I like 100% absolutely. After those 2 days, I had that moment for sure, and it lasted a good half an hour of that story, sitting
yeah.
upstairs before I started going downhill and coming back to some sense of normalcy. But I had 5 phenomenal days that were after that. But just, it's funny what we do to ourselves.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's just funny.
Julie, can I add one thing I forgot to say when we're just kind of talking about sitting with emotion?
Yeah, please do.
When you're doing exactly what we're all talking about, it slows it down.
Mm.
When you become aware. And so, Matt, just if you're struggling sometimes with like, what am I feeling? Or I don't really know what it is. When we just sit with it, it slows it down, and then it's easier to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
When we avoid it, when we're like, I don't want to feel that, it speeds it up. Because again, just remember, it's just trying to get your attention. It's trying to get you to listen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I know I have like 1,000 different things that I do depending on the emotion that I'm feeling that helps me process it or feel it or cope with it or whatever I need to do. I feel like for me, if I'm feeling big feelings, if I can feel all this stuff in my whole body and it feels overwhelming, almost always it's more than one emotion. And that's when it gets overwhelming, when I can't just pick one emotion out and name it and be like, okay, that's what this is. Okay. I know how to deal with anger. I know how to deal with whatever. It's when it gets all jumbled up and then it starts getting to where it feels difficult and overwhelming. Like maybe I can't deal with it. And what I've learned is like, and at first, again, with the awareness, like I've learned to recognize, oh, okay, this is like the emotional cyclone. This isn't one nice, tidy, neat little emotion that my life has handed to me. This is like the cyclone of all the different things. And there's something so calming and centering about like almost imagining reaching in and grabbing like a thread and slowly pulling it out and unraveling it and asking myself, okay, what is this motion? What am I feeling here? And then when I can understand it, I can let it go, and then I can reach in and pull out another thread and ask myself, well, what is this? And to close my eyes and actually imagine myself pulling the emotions apart has a way of just making me feel like I can breathe a little bit more. And like I do have some power over it. I think that's the hardest for me is when it's so many emotions that I don't know that I have to stop and separate them all first.
What's the last one you separate? What's the last one you come to?
Ooh,
Typically.
I don't know.
Normally, if it's
know.
jumbled, the base emotion is fear.
Okay,
Ooh,
I
yeah.
can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Fear is
That
a
makes sense. I
primary
was going to say
emotion.
probably shame because shame is always the thing that it goes back to
Yeah.
for me, but fear makes sense too.
Yeah. Shame is literally the fear of not being good enough most of the
Yes,
time.
absolutely.
Right. So
Yeah.
most of the time it feels jumbled. There's fear there somewhere.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I will say is that there is no shame in occasionally distracting yourself If your emotions are so overwhelming that you're struggling to get through a day, please don't feel like there's something weak about just distracting yourself. And for me, that's like, I'll play piano, I'll read a book, I will look at funny cat videos on Instagram, whatever like I need for 15 minutes to get my head out of it. Because I think sometimes that's the healthiest thing that we can do if it's something big, is just go. And that doesn't mean run away from it forever. That means give yourself a breather, because some of these things are big and they last way longer than we want them to last. And it's okay to take a few breaths before you dive back in, if that's what you need to do.
That's so for sure. Like sometimes we feel like we'll feel the emotion in the now, but also in the now isn't the time to process that emotion.
Hmm.
In the now, I'm like, okay, I feel this. This isn't the time for this. I have work to do. I have something else to do. I have whatever it may be. It could be, anywhere from an emergency, or you're just sitting down with family, or you blew a tire and you're on the side of the road, and you need to stay composed. And then I'm going to have to look at this later. So
Am I not supposed to stop and cry when I blow a tire first? No, I'm just kidding.
If that's what you need to do.
Not anymore. I did earlier, like day 4 of sobriety. Yeah, that's where that started.
But like, you know what I mean, right? Like we talk about processing this stuff. We're also talking about not avoiding it. And and there's the space in between where, you can let it happen, acknowledge its existence. I'm not dealing with this right now. And then hopefully come back to it and deal with it later.
Yeah,
So
for
true.
sure. Okay, so wrapping up with our last question here, what's the greatest benefit that you've experienced in your life now that you have the skills to actually feel the hard emotions?
Mine's
I know
pretty
who I
simple.
am, baby.
Oh,
No, go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
okay.
Go ahead.
I kind of touched on this before, but it's it enables me to show up for myself, which then allows me to show up for other people.
100%.
I
What you got,
basically
Sean?
said the same thing. I know who I am. Right. My emotions will tell me who I am. Then I don't have to really worry about what you think of me, because I know who I am.
Absolutely.
And that's basically what Matt said. Right? I can show up for myself. I can show up for other people.
Yeah. I think I realized when I finally started letting myself feel emotions, like emotions are the color of life. You live so much more fully when you're capable of feeling the good and the bad. You've got to be able to feel the bad if you're going to feel the good as completely as you can. But that's what makes life feel full and real.
Yeah.
This is the place where I go. And I remember shortly after I read Atlas of the Heart, I was back in Ontario. I'm going to finish this whole episode with a story. I was back in Ontario, and I was catching up with a couple of friends, and I was telling them all about this book because I was absolutely fascinated that there was 87 different emotions that I could be feeling. And I went on and on about like how I finally get to experience what life can give me in a way that I really never gave enough gratitude to begin with. This is just bringing me back to like, I can remember hearing the gratitude in my voice when I was telling them these were the things that I was learning, because I was so passionate about literally living life in this rainbow of emotion, and that it was something that I got to do and experience rather than just living in happy, sad, or mad, or like these five different colors. There was 87 different colors. Even if you can only feel 30 of them, it's better than happy, sad, and mad. Like that was the spice of life, and it still is the spice of life. It is still just like, I can't imagine now living in happy, sad, and mad, because it feels so tri-directional. Like It just does. I love the nuance in it all now. It just, it has helped me find out who I am. It has helped me connect with other people. And that's where I was going to go with this too, is for me, it's connection. I can show up for someone else. I can show up for me. I can meet you where you're at. I can meet me where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I'm not pissed off about how you feel about something, and I'm not pissed off about how I feel about something most of the time. Every once in a while, it still happens. Like, let's be honest, there is no perfection in this shit.
No.
It's just a willingness to learn. Anyways, I want to say thank you, Matt, and thank you, Sean, for showing up and sharing your thoughts and your experiences. It's always wonderful to see you too. And we will see you guys again next month on another episode. And I'm so excited for it. So thank you. And thank you to our listeners.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.